Bad late night news has shocked the Kenyans. Welcome to Kenya Lens Media, where we bring you news updates as they break. Kindly, if you are new here, consider subscribing. The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority (EPRA) has announced a significant increase in prices of petrol and diesel for the May to June 2026 pricing cycle. In the latest fuel review released on Thursday, May 14th, EPRA increased the price of super petrol by 16 shillings and 65 cents per litre. Diesel prices have gone up even further, rising by 46 shillings and 29 cents per litre. Kerosene prices, however, remain unchanged. Following the adjustment, motorists across the country will now pay a maximum of 214 shillings and 25 cents for a litre of super petrol, and diesel will retail at 242 shillings and 92 cents per litre. The new prices officially take effect from May 15th and also will remain in place for the next 30 days. Meanwhile, kerosene will continue retailing at 152 shillings and 78 cents per litre, the same price maintained during the previous cycle. The announcement is expected to trigger immediate concern among households, transport operators, businesses, and ordinary Kenyans already struggling with the high cost of living. Diesel, in particular, plays a major role in Kenya's economy. It powers public transport vehicles, commercial trucks, farm machinery, construction equipment, and a large section of country's industrial sector. A sharp increase in diesel prices therefore carries consequences far beyond fuel stations. It directly affects the cost of transporting goods, running businesses, and moving people across the country. And for millions of Kenyans who rely daily on public service vehicles to travel to work, school, and markets, the latest increase could soon translate into higher transport fares. In its statement, EPRA said the review was conducted in accordance with Section 101 of the Petroleum Act 2019, alongside Legal Notice Number 192 of 2022. The regulator says the prices reflect changes in internal fuel markets and the cost of importing refined petroleum products into the country. And according to EPRA, Kenya continues to import all its petroleum products in a refined form. That means local fuel prices remain heavily tied to movements in global oil markets and international benchmark pricing. The authority says that the latest adjustments were mainly driven by sharp increase in the average landing cost of imported fuel between March and April this year. The landing cost refers to the total amount paid to import fuel into the country before taxes, transport, and also retail charges are added. For super petrol, the landing cost is increased by 10%, and it rose from approximately 160,000 shillings per cubic meter to more than 117,000 shillings per cubic meter. For diesel, the increase was even steeper. EPRA says diesel landing costs surged by more than 20% during the review period, and the cost jumped from about 138,000 shillings per cubic meter to more than 166,000 shillings per cubic meter. Kerosene also recorded a slight increase in landing cost, though its retail price remained unchanged after government intervention. According to the regulator, international benchmark prices for petroleum products have continued rising steadily in recent months, especially for diesel. That trend has now placed fresh pressure on fuel importing countries like Kenya. Global fuel market fluctuations often have immediate effects on Kenya's economy because the country relies entirely on imported refined fuel products. Any increase in international oil prices, shipping charges, or global supply disruptions is eventually reflected at local fuel stations, and the latest announcement now comes at a time when many Kenyans are already facing economic pressure from rising food prices, expensive electricity bills, expensive or the school expenses, rent, and transport costs. For matatu operators and transport companies, diesel prices remain one of the biggest operational expenses. Industry players are now expected to review transport charges in the coming days as operators attempt to absorb the new fuel costs. The impact may also spread quickly to food prices and also basic commodities, and this is because fuel plays a critical role in transporting agricultural produce, manufactured goods, and also supplies across the country. From farm to markets, from factories to supermarkets, and also from depots to small retail shops, transport costs influence nearly every stage of the supply chain. Economic analysts also warn that sustained fuel increases often create a ripple effect throughout the economy, especially in sectors that rely heavily on transportation and logistics. Small businesses may also fuel the pressure, and many traders use diesel-powered generators and transport services to sustain daily operations, particularly in areas with unstable electricity supply. And for ordinary wananchi, however, the most immediate effect is likely to be felt at bus stages and fuel stations. Commuters in major towns and cities could soon face higher fares during morning and evening travel hours. Long-distance travel may also become more expensive if transport companies revise ticket prices. Even so, EPRA says the government is attempting to caution consumers from even steeper increases. The regulator confirmed that approximately 5 billion shillings from the Petroleum Development Levy Fund will be used to subsidize diesel and kerosene during the current cycle. The Petroleum Development Levy Fund is designed to help stabilize fuel prices and also protect consumers from extreme fluctuations in global oil markets. And without the subsidy intervention, analysts also say pump prices would have climbed even higher. The government's decision to maintain kerosene prices unchanged is also expected to offer some relief to the low-income households that rely on kerosene for cooking and also lighting. Kerosene remains an important source of energy in many rural and also informal urban settlements, despite increased use of electricity and gas in other parts of the country. EPRA also noted that the latest fuel prices are inclusive of the current 8% value-added tax on petroleum products. That follows the government's recent decision to lower VAT on fuel from 12% to 8% last month. The last reduction had initially offered some hope that fuel prices could stabilize or reduce. However, the sharp rise in international landing costs has now outweighed the effect of the lower tax rate. The announcement is likely to reignite national debate over Kenya's dependence on imported fuel and the wider cost of energy in the country. Over the years, rising fuel prices have repeatedly triggered public frustration because of their direct impact on daily life. Fuel costs influence transport, food distribution, electricity production, and the overall cost of doing business. And because nearly every sector depends on transport, changes in pump prices often affect both urban and also rural households alike. For many Kenyans, the concern is no longer just the price of fuel itself, it is the chain reaction that follows. High fuel costs often lead to increased transport fares, and higher transport fares affect the cost of food and also essential goods. And rising prices place additional strain on families already struggling to balance shrinking incomes with their growing expenses. And in markets, transport hubs, and also business centers, the latest April announcement is already expected to dominate conversations in the coming days. For motorists, the cost of filling a fuel tank will rise sharply, and for businesses, operating cost may increase further. And for ordinary commuters, daily travel may soon become even more expensive. As the new prices take effect, many Kenyans will once again be forced to adjust household budgets and also spending priorities in response to the changing economic reality. And as fuel prices continue climbing, the impact will not only be measured at the pump, but also in the daily lives of millions of Kenyans trying to keep pace with the rising cost of living. That is all for today from Kenya Lens Media, where we bring you news updates as they break. And kindly, if you are new here, consider subscribing, liking and sharing our content.